Thank you, all of you, for being here and listening. This poem is for my grandmother, Our Red Evening. Part of every dream, the train, loud, lunatic, lifts a din of rail and rim through Greystone's bray. The sea, a net, sways and wraps the evening in mist. Faces frost the window, one woman up the coast, another down. Sunset and skin pales, glows, is sheer. No blood on the hospital sheets, all in her head. And you, bloodshot now on the train. Gone done Larry, still wrapped drum, Arklow. The train marks each exile with a sign. But exile, how it sleeps now in your mother's hair. What you put inside, you can't take back. So bid a hush, child, let the silhouette of South Hill on sea take you back to water. Here, take a glass, a cup, drink your mother back, drink your town back, that town of men bent on hill walking, wrist clawing, senseless straying. Gone, you knew it still lived in your bone. Your own daughter waits in the city, one woman, another. The line of you will stretch. You will walk together down the coast. Hair down, you will walk in white shifts your mother's made. Interfaced. She was always there, the woman with the plastic mask on the wall of the museum, and before that, I'd assume, in the paper the week the bomb went off. And I wonder, maybe even now, sitting through her own life, sanctum bending to a granddaughter in a crib, does she still wear the mask, I wonder? Or was it meant only for the healing, for the aftermath, the camera? I wonder, and yet I find her face is searchable, the engine numb under my fingers, her life the subject of articles, because the issue of compensation is unresolved, and her case, shrapnel still in her neck and children to feed. One of them were difficult, you could say. I do say, though now I'm measuring, life's surely call for the measuring stick, a wall of distinction between here and there, a face with scars and a hand scarred, a hand striking and a face struck by light too early in the morning. This next poem I actually wrote in the fall, which might be evident in a moment, and I debated whether to read it given the shooting this week in Florida, but of course it made me think again of how we talk about violence in the US and even who I mean by we. So, white American. When I am in another country, say Ireland, and a poet at a reading refers briefly to our most recent shooting, another one in America, he says, and mentally I add Vegas, and the man and the woman on either side of me sigh, shaking their heads. I picture standing on a chair, like a child on a pew in Mass, and raising my hand. Or writing my own poem about the famine, perhaps how the custom then, when the mother died, was to fasten the door. Or telling the gentleman beside me that one of the women who died had ties to my elementary school. I consider noting that this school still mourns the death of my mother 1 year before. Instead, I take the bus back to my flat, and warm and fed, I sleep and dream of labor in an old greased hospital where birth is nothing much to speak of. At 8 centimeters, I am sent home, but my mother remains in the hospital. I'm not aware in the dream that she should be dead, and I try to call the doctor, but an old nurse tells me we are past that point. When the child is born, I tell her we are from a land where God was smug and male, and still it is so. Waking, I make strong coffee, write to a friend that I prefer malignancy to the sharper words that now describe my life. But the line won't carry me far, and I move on to a story of a small town where concertina wire separates the factory workers from the houses. The workers are there to bind copies of the story of a man nailed to a cross. The man and his family are painted in the wrong colors, and in lieu of pay, the workers pray for stigmata. When I write that line, I tighten my fist, and on the chapped skin of my knuckles, blood rises. Knowing this mother at the school is a bit like knowing a neighbor of a friend who died in the Twin Towers. It is a bit like my brother's car rolling down a hill and him walking free the day the towers fell. It is a bit like my brother offering to drive 700 miles across state lines without registration. It is a bit like the speeding violations, DUI checkpoints, movie screenings, shopping excursions, our own wars, or days of school my brother and I have survived without even trying. So the next time when in another country, say Ireland, and a poet at a reading refers briefly to an American mass shooting and gets the audience to sigh collectively, I might say, listen, we prefer to think our risks chosen. There are things I could say about going to a film in America. There are things I could say about my mother, her death. But I know better. Only to paint across is nothing. Thank you. These last two poems, this first one is called Still Life. You with the blood over your eye, burnt hair, take this cup of water, drink it all at once, breathing the off gulps. Leave him out of it. He hasn't enough time. The car is wrecked and the seats shimmering, and you, all sinew and devilment, glass in your hair. When you walk home tonight, walk on the left. Let the passerby, all 2 or 3 of them, let their headlights light your head. Let them see the cut glowing, your eyes dead on. They will not know you. They will see their own heading home the last time. Let them have that. This last poem is maybe accurately called Finale, and it's for my mother. When she began death, I killed the mice, the first by trap, the last by hand. Her pain was slow, one said. She became they, in the cigarette mouths we pay to usher the great undying down that long dinner path, down that long path strewn with dinner plates. Breast-reared and penitent, I pushed them aside, knelt my grim mystery down. I pushed them still, like mice. Thank you.